Hi everyone, Digibro here, announcing that I've just released part 1 of my biggest, and in my opinion, best analytical project yet, Psycho-Pass vs. Psycho-Pass 2, What Happened? This is going to be a 5-part, 2-hour in total, analytical diatribe on the differences and similarities between one of my favorite anime, Psycho-Pass, and one of the most disappointing sequels that I've ever seen, Psycho-Pass 2. I hope you'll enjoy this series. Part 1, which is out now, is completely spoiler-free except for the first episode. I only talk about the first episode of Season 1, so even if you've never seen Psycho-Pass, you should be able to watch this video, and maybe it'll inspire you to give the show a shot, or if you gave it a shot once and didn't care for it, this might inspire you to give it another shot. This video series will be, each episode is about 20 to 30 minutes long. This one is 22 minutes, and I cannot post it on YouTube. The nature of the series would not work if I couldn't show full screen footage of the show while I'm talking about it, and there's no way to get this show past YouTube's Content ID filter without like making it look like absolute hell, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather just have a high quality video than try to beat the censors and all that stuff. So go check it out. It's down in the description. There's a link to my blog, and it will link you to a Dailymotion upload, a File Factory upload, and a Google Drive upload. All three of these sites will let you watch the show streaming, or from the latter two, you can download it. I recommend that if you really like this video and you want to have it around for posterity, that you download it, because there's a chance that it could get taken down from all three of these sites, because these sites, you know, if they get a copyright notice, I can't do shit about it. That shit will just get taken down and be gone forever. So download it if you want to keep it. I'll keep updating the links in the post over time if videos get taken down or if I upload it to more places. You'll always be able to find it on the link in the description on my blog. So go there. Now, I'm going to put the first, 10 minutes of part 1 in this video because that's the only part I can get onto YouTube. It doesn't have any footage from the show. Just go to the link and you can just watch this part in the context of the bigger video. The only reason I'm posting it here is just in case you're not convinced you want to watch it or something, or you want to see a sample, or to make it easier to share to people, if you wanted to share the YouTube link for whatever reason, just to have part of it on my channel so that you can sort of window shop it. And also, if you just want to watch this version and the other version, just because, if you watch more on my channel, I get more ad revenue and I get more support from YouTube's algorithm if you watch longer videos on my channel. So if you just want to run this one with the sound off while you watch the other one, you can do that. It's just to help me, but you don't have to. Anyways, check it out. Here's the first part of the video where I just talk about the production history of the two shows, comparing and contrasting what happened to make these shows. When you go to the rest of the video, when you watch all of part 1, it will then go on to talk about the first episode of season 1, and then in part 2, I'll start comparing the two shows more intimately. So, if you have any comments about Psycho-Pass 2, I recommend saving them for later, because I'm going to talk a lot more about that show in parts 4 and 5 of this video series. That's where I really dig into Psycho-Pass 2. So I'm mostly going to talk about Psycho-Pass 1 in this video, 1 and 2 in parts 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5 will be about Psycho-Pass 2. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that so I don't get all the comments that on this video that I would rather respond to on that one, because you might say, oh, well, Psycho-Pass 2 did this, this, and this, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I say so in my later videos. So have fun. And I hope you enjoy it, because this is probably my favorite analytical post I've written to date. I hope it will be yours too. Psycho-Pass is one of my favorite animated series of all time. Meanwhile, its sequel, Psycho-Pass 2, was a gigantic disappointment. In this video, I'll be seeking the answer to one very simple question. What happened? Literally, what happened? What actually occurred in Psycho-Pass to make me love it so much? And what went on in Psycho-Pass 2 for it to fail so hard at capturing the same magic? To figure this out, we will need the answers to two more specific questions. What happened during the production of these two series? And what were we presented with by each of these two series? The answers to each of these questions will thread a rich tapestry of insight into how these shows came about, how each of them was presented, and how the audience reacted. In the process of getting these answers, I am going to talk for a very long time before getting to the point, so strap yourselves in, because this is a 5-part video. Part 1. What happened? To start with, let's take a look at the production background of Psycho Pass and see if we can't get some clues into what the team was going for in making this show. Thankfully, there are quite a number of interviews and quotes from the main creative staff of the series through which they explain their influences and ideas for how the project came together, meaning that we don't have to speculate much to figure out what happened. Psycho Pass was initially born out of animation studio Production IG's desire to construct a new high-quality sci-fi intellectual property, specifically with the hopes of following up on their success with the works of Mamoru Oshii, such as Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor, which are often regarded as some of the greatest works in the animated medium. In order to accomplish this, the studio hired a popular live-action film director named Katsuyuki Motohiro, best known for the Bayside Shakedown film series and other police procedural dramas, to come up with an original idea for a police drama with a sci-fi twist. Motohiro had already been interested in working in animation before, but felt that he would only do it if he could find a charismatic screenwriter. When someone showed him the mega-hit 2011 series Mahou Shoujo Madoka Magica, Motohiro became curious about writer Gen Urobuchi, read all of his books, and decided that he would be ideal for this kind of project. Motohiro and Urobuchi worked closely to hash out the kind of world and story that they wanted to create, drawing inspiration from Western films such as LA Confidential and from sci-fi authors such as Philip K. Dick, while strictly trying to make something gritty, masculine, and anti-moe. Once Psycho Pass made it into the production phase, the studio assigned veteran animator Naoyoshi Shiotani to direct, while he was coming right off the heels of directing the Blood Sea movie. Shiotani has stated in several interviews that he was on a very tight schedule with Psycho Pass, thanks to being brought in right when the production cycle had already begun. But he also said that he was able to accomplish most of what he wanted to do with the series thanks to executive director Motohiro sticking up for him when dealing with the producers. It was important to everyone involved in the production that they create what they felt was a work of artistic merit, and from the sound of their interviews, it seems that they succeeded. It's also pretty clear from these interviews that Motohiro was excited at the idea of turning Psycho Pass into a larger franchise and directing more projects based on it, as long as the series was successful. Motohiro specifically asked that nothing be put into the series which couldn't be done in a live-action film, just in case he got the chance to do an adaptation of it at some point. And after the success of Season 1, he was immediately talking about his excitement to work on a sequel. Psycho Pass quickly began receiving tie-in novels, games, and manga, and it wasn't long after the original show's airing that both a second season as well as a full-length animated film were announced. However, it should be noted that the production and reception of Psycho Pass did not necessarily run smoothly from start to finish. Episode 16, which is often considered the high point of the series, was also the point after which director Shiotani and his staff felt that they were at the end of their mental ropes and decided to take a sort of break. They outsourced episodes 17 and 18 to another studio, leading to a noticeable dip in quality, but allowing them to recuperate in order to focus on making episodes 19 through 22 as good as they could be. Episodes 17 and 18 were redone for the home video release by Production IG, but I think the fact that this happened at all is noteworthy when trying to speculate on what may have happened during the production of Season 2. In many ways, the reasons for Psycho Pass 2 being so different from the first season are obvious. It simply was not made by the same people. While the planning for Season 2 was supervised by Motohiro and Urobuchi, neither of them actually returned to their positions of executive director and scriptwriter for Season 2. They instead dedicated their efforts to the feature film, which was being produced at the same time as Season 2 of the TV series. With Production IG working full force on the film as well, they handed the production of Psycho Pass 2 over to one of their subsidiary studios, Tatsunoko Productions. Director Shiotani, now working on both the film and the TV series, was assisted by Tatsunoko Pro's up-and-coming unit director Kiyotaka Suzuki on Psycho Pass 2, and the screenwriting responsibilities were handed over to To Ubukata, who had previously written the Production IG originals Les Chevaliers d'Eon and Ghost in the Shell Arise. Working with a different team would not necessarily mean that Psycho Pass 2 was automatically going to be worse than the original, or even that it had to be completely different, considering that it's not like the original team wasn't involved at all. However, there were a few hints which made it evident that something wasn't quite right from the very beginning. Director Shiotani has stated in interviews that there were a lot of troubles with trying to write the second series, not because of working on the film at the same time, but due to what he refers to as the inflexibility of the story. He remarked on how it's difficult to add new ideas into such a tightly constructed sci-fi world without breaking anything, and you'll notice that there are not any quotes from him about how they went about fixing that issue. In the interview wherein Motohiro and Shiotani discussed the problems of episodes 17 and 18 of the original series, one of them comments that the studio they had commissioned to handle those episodes must have had difficulty capturing the feeling and atmosphere of the sci-fi world which they'd constructed. If that feeling could so easily be shattered even within the animation production of 2 episodes which were already fully planned out by the original creative team, then it's not a stretch to imagine that an entire entirely new writer and animation studio would have a difficult time capturing the feel of the original, especially when the main creative minds behind the series are busy working on another project. Even if we simply compare the output of those involved with making the original show against those involved with making the sequel, it's obvious that there were going to be issues. Regardless of how you may feel about the controversial Gen Urobuchi, there is no denying that his writing has been highly successful and gripping within stories such as Madoka Magica, Fate Zero, and even his old games like Saya no Uta. Toa Ubukata isn't necessarily a bad writer, but his most engaging works have arguably been his goofier pulp cyberpunk stories, such as Marduk Scramble. Projects like Ghost in the Shell Arise pale in comparison to the other works of the franchise, and nothing which Ubukata has written quite stands on the level of the Urobucher's work. Likewise, Tatsunoko Productions have been responsible for plenty of high-quality original works over their 53-year history, with some interestingly experimental recent work in the likes of Ping Pong, Gatchaman Crowds, and C, The Money of Soul and Possibility Control. That said, it's nonetheless difficult to consider their body of work comparable to that of Production IG, which is often regarded as the single best anime studio in existence. Between their work on Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, the films of Mamoru Oshii such as The Skycrawlers and Jinro, other films and TV series such as A Letter to Momo, Seirei no Moribito, and Eden of the East, and the work that they did on Gainax shows like Evangelion and FLCL, Production IG has continually been responsible for some of the best productions in the industry over the last 30 years or so. Looking at it from this perspective, it almost seems like Psycho Pass 2 was damned to inferiority right from the conceptual stage. Not only does it lack the creative team which made the original series great, but the stand-ins that it uses in their place hardly live up to the credentials of the people whom they've been made to follow. Even though a lot of the same people worked on various stages of the production of both series, there's no question that the flavor of the second one is undeniably different from that of the first, and it would be almost foolish not to assume that this is largely attributable to the differences in how it was produced. What the production background says to me about Psycho Pass 2 is that it was basically a side project made to keep up interest in the franchise while the main creative staff went to work on the film, and it's hardly surprising that the result of this is a significantly worse series. This might not have even been a problem were it not for the fact that Psycho Pass 2 is a direct sequel which stars the same characters, and which affects the ongoing series narrative, making it a sort of slap in the face to fans who were expecting a product on the level of the original. But while this may explain why the second season of Psycho Pass isn't as good as the first, it still doesn't really explain how that is the case. We know now what potentially caused the second season's problems, but what were the effects? What actually happened in this series that made it come out inferior to its predecessor? To figure that out, we're going to have to spend some time watching each series and piecing together what exactly the first season did right, so that we can then identify where the second season failed to do the same. This video will only contain spoilers for the first episode of season 1 and minor hints at things which come later, but I would highly advise at least watching that episode before continuing with this video. You can find it legally for free over on Hulu or Funimation.